Miss Bofuche.
Hey, Miss Stoop.
And this is Method and Graphing. What a mess.
Go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
Like.
Give us a thumbs up.
Turn on that notification bell.
Comment below what you think we should do with our lives next. Because this ain't it.
So today we're going to go over the 2020 virtual learning expectations for class while we are learning virtually.
So this means when you are online full time, not when we go back to hybrid. So here we go.
Here we go. So our class expectations, first things first, you need to check your GoCruisers email multiple times a day.
Yeah, I think that's how we're going to be mainly interacting with you guys, is sending emails. You can email us, we'll email you guys as a class, push out whatever we need to push out. But super important that you're also checking your Google Classroom.
Google Classroom.
Google Classroom.
Go on, get there.
Go on, get there. That Google Classroom. So that Google Classroom, I think almost everybody has a Google Classroom page, because that's what we're utilizing. I think we're forced to use Google Classroom.
We are actually forced. They forced us to type and make the Google Classrooms. So everybody will be in their own Google Classroom by period. So you should be checking that daily, and you should be accessing that the way your schedule goes. So first period, if you have math, you're checking math during that 40-minute time slot.
Next
so
up.
that leads to following your schedule and progress book.
Yeah, so you're going to be getting your schedule when you pick up your Chromebook here. So hopefully you already have it. If not, it is on progressbook.com. There's a link on our little Google site page. You just go there, figure out what your schedule is, and you log in for the time that you're doing.
Yep, and next, once you get to our Google Classroom, we're going to be posting assignments, so you need to make sure that you are completing those assignments by the due date, and there are going to be pretty solid due dates. Those will be posted with each assignment.
Speaking of assignments, there will also be an attendance question pretty much every day. This is how we'll be taking attendance. So for virtual learning, what you do is you answer that question, whatever the question is, and then we go in the next day and by 9 a.m. enter that. So just make sure you're completing the attendance question and then any assignments so we can count you as present.
And that doesn't mean that you can go on and only answer the attendance question and then skip the rest of class. You need to be attending and participating the entire 40 minutes that you're supposed to have class, which we know is a really long time, but we're supposed to be treating this like this is going to be school. So.
Yeah, and what does that look like? I know we don't have it on here, but mainly you're going to be logging in, at least for math. We'll Google Meet for like the first, 10, 15, maybe times, sometimes the whole period, but just to go over our expectations and model whatever video we're doing for that day, and then we'll let you loose and you can complete the assignment. So you're not going to be with us live the entire time, but a good chunk of the time you will be with us.
Yeah, and then lastly, if you need any individual help, that would not be during the Google Meets with your classmates, or you're embarrassed, or you don't want to ask your questions in front of anybody else, we'll have office hours that will be held on Wednesdays. Wednesdays are the days that you will have work that's more independent, because we have meetings and professional developments and things like that. But you can sign up during our conference period and some other time slots once we get used to our schedule on Wednesdays, and then you can get some individual help from us.
Cool. So next up, we're going to talk about our Google Meet expectations, because we will be having quite a few of those. So the first thing that we're going to say is just to be on time. So that means waking up early if you can, logging in a couple minutes beforehand. Like I said, we're not going to be live the entire time. So if you go to first to second period, you can log into second period a couple minutes early just to make sure you're there.
So the next thing you need to do is find a quiet place. So we are aware that you are going to be with your siblings and your family at home, if you have siblings and your pets. But we need you to find the quietest place possible, whether that's like your room or your basement or outside, but somewhere where when you are participating, we can understand you and understand what's going on without a bunch of background noise.
So coming prepared is our third one. So making sure that your Chromebook is charged or always plugged in. Having any necessary materials that you need. So I know that we're going to start having note templates, or you should have a notebook for social studies. Just having everything that you need, making sure that your internet is connected. Basically just having a pencil and a notebook and being ready.
Yep, and the next thing is you need to be aware of like your presentation when you get on Google Meets. So we're not expecting you to be like beautiful or have your hair done or anything like
But you're
that.
always beautiful.
Because you're always beautiful.
Yes.
But we'd appreciate if you weren't naked.
Yeah, wear a shirt, please.
So basically wear something that covers all of you and something that you would at least wear to school, even if it is like pajamas. But it is good for your mental health to like put on some real people clothes every once in a while.
Just every once in a while to make you feel like you're a real person.
Yep.
All right, muting yourself. So I know that some of us love to hear the sound of our voice. However, when we have a lot of people on and they're all trying to talk, not only is it kind of confusing, but it also uses the bandwidth that makes it kind of like staticky. So we're gonna ask that you mute yourself while you're on our Google Meets unless you're directed to not. So answering questions, or if we call on you, that's when you can unmute yourself.
Yes. And the next thing is make sure you are participating. I know it's particularly hard right now when we're online. You don't have someone standing in front of you and watching your every move and watching to make sure that you are focusing and paying attention. But it's like super, super important now more than ever when we're online to make sure that you're participating so that you're getting out of our lessons as much as you can, even though you don't have a teacher right there in front of you paying individual attention to you. And also when it calls for it, make sure that you're actively participating in the lesson. It could be either unmuting yourself if you have that direction from your teacher, or just writing in the chat some responses so that we know that you're there and alive and understand what's going on.
Yeah, so we are not requiring you to turn your camera on. However, we do encourage you to have your camera on, and if you're not comfortable with your camera, maybe setting a picture of yourself just so it's there, because so that participation is going to be really key, that if you don't have your camera on, at least having yourself participate in the chat box. Speaking of chat box, chatting responsibly, so it's just making sure that we use the raising your hand feature, using the chat box when directed, so we're not just going off topic. Asking a question if you need to in the middle of a lesson is always acceptable in the chat box, but we're not using it just to have fun and just talk to our friends. We're going to use it for math class.
Yes, and talking about communicating with each other, we need to make sure that we are communicating properly during the Google Meets. With only 40 minutes for math and ELA this year, it's super, super important that we use our time wisely. So when you are communicating during the Google Meets, you need to make sure you're speaking clearly and that you're staying on topic. This is kind of different from the spring where we didn't know what was going on.
Nobody knew what was going on.
And we all just missed each other, so we got on Google Meets and just kind of chatted instead of like worrying about covering material. But this year it's not going to just be for socializing, it is mainly going to be for lessons.
Staff, in a few minutes we are going to meet in the cafeteria for anybody who is here on their assigned Chromebook pickup day. We're going to meet in the cafeteria in a few minutes. Thank you.
Anyways, okay, so the last one we're going to talk about is just respect. So being kind to one another, we're all learning. Like, this is a completely new process for everybody. We're all used to seeing your faces, your bright, smiling, beautiful faces in here. And now we're seeing them on a Chromebook, which is going to be interesting. So just being kind to one another, obviously treating others how they should be treated. It's a learning process for all. So we're all gonna have some trial and error with it.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about how we expect you guys to act on Google Meets and what you should be doing every day and such, but we also have expectations that we need to hold ourselves to. So for teacher expectations, you should be expecting us to post our lessons on Google Classroom by 8 a.m. every day. So if we are not, that's a problem, but I promise you.
Someone come make sure I'm alive.
Right?
If it's not a place, why didn't sleep in?
But Ms. Bofice and I, we're always going to post on our Google Classroom at 8 a.m. So expect that, anticipate that is happening.
It'll be there. All right, next is that you can expect us to respond to emails in a timely manner. So I like to give a little like 24-hour rule, so I always try to respond within 24 hours. Most of the time I'm gonna probably respond pretty immediately. I think that's pretty fair since we'll be on our Chromebooks, but give us 24 hours, and if not, then you can send us an email. Speaking of emails, probably should have a subject line when you're emailing us. Please have a subject line. How about Dear Ms. Bofice or hey, Miss Dupe, and then ask your questions, state your statement, and then say, you know what, sincerely, or thanks, or have a great day, and then your
Sincerely.
name. Sincerely, or
Coldly.
people. Just keep that in mind when you're writing your emails.
Yes. And writing emails, once again, we are going to be hosting office hours on Wednesdays whenever we have time to. So if you need to communicate that you need extra help during office hours, then you need to email us, let us know, and then we will work with you to set up a time. We won't only be available Wednesdays. We can make ourselves available on other days, but Wednesdays is the day we like really, really want you to remember because everybody's a little bit more flexible on Wednesdays.
And then I think lastly is just recording grades into the gradebook. So because we are doing things online more, it does take a little bit longer to grade things. However, we are going to have the expectation that we are recording our grades into Progress Book in a timely manner. So if you see something that is missing, obviously if it's not within the hour, like a couple days, don't email us because we're probably working our way through it. But like a week or two, that's a pretty timely fashion.
Yep,
All right,
that's it.
that's it for the virtual learning expectations.
That's the tea.
Sip it.
Sip it. Bye.